am Joel Grizzle, and today we are going to step in the world of 5th grade math. My one solo student is my daughter Kennedy. Kennedy, turn and wave. Hi. So she's going to see if she's smarter than a 5th grader. That's going to be the way we work. Today our subject or our theme is writing and interpreting numerical expressions, with our standard being standard 5.0A.1, using parentheses in numerical expressions and evaluating those expressions with those symbols. This is important so that we can organize our calculations and communicate them clearly. Now, when we think about working through a numerical expressions, there are 4 steps that we need to take to solve these word problems. Number 1, we need to identify the operations, the mathematical operations that we are going to use. Number 2, we actually need to write these expressions out because they're coming in the form of a word problem, so we have to write them out. Number 3, we have to interpret the impression, at least kind of figure out how we're going to do it. And then number 4, evaluate or solve the expression. So I'm going to review these steps one more time, then I'm going to go through the examples, and then Kennedy, or the class, has a worksheet. Her and I will do the work, maybe 2 of the problems together, and then we'll see if she can do 2 of them on her own, and then that will complete our lesson. Okay, so the 4 steps again to solving and writing and interpreting numerical expressions. Number 1, identify the operations. 2, write the expression. 3, interpret the expression. And then 4, evaluate and solve the expression. Okay, here is our first example. Our first example is multiply the sum of 8 and 7 by 2. So if we look at our steps, we have to identify the operations. So the operations we're looking at, we have multiply, and then we have the sum, okay? Multiply and the sum. So if we're going to write this out, multiply the sum, and that's going to be our parentheses, the sum of 8 plus 7, in parentheses, by 2. And if we do by 2, we can either do the multiplication sign times 2, or we can just put the 2 next to the parentheses. Okay, so that is our expression. So we've identified the expression, we've written out our expression, now we have to interpret the expression, which just means, in terms of the step of operations, we solve everything inside the parentheses first, and then we go outside. She's nodding our head as if she knows it. There we go, good. So now we solve. So 8 plus 7 is, so we'll go over here. I did not leave enough room on my board, so when I do my evaluation, I'll say I should have had more room on my board. Okay, so 8 plus 7 is 15 times 2 equals 30. So our evaluation or our solving is 30. Going through the steps that we went through. So now, number 2, 18 minus the quotient of 15 divided by 3. So we identify the operations, so we have minus, the word quotient, and then even the word divided by. So we can write this out again. So we're writing out the expression. 18 minus, and then we have to figure out the quotient of 15 divided by 3. So that's going to be what goes in our parentheses. The minus the quotient of 15 divided by 3. 18 minus the quotient of 15 divided by 3. In the parentheses, he tells us that we're going to do what's on the inside first. So now we have to solve. So 18 minus 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, 5. And then 18 minus 5 is 13. So 13 is our answer. Okay. Example number 3. 5 times the sum of 6 and 12. Okay, so we identify the operations. Kennedy, what are there's 2 words on there that would be our identifying the operations. What would they be?
Times and sum.
Times, okay, and sum. Which two would actually go in the parentheses. What numbers are gonna go in the parentheses? 2 and 6. Okay. So we've identified the operations, now we can write out the expression. So 5 times the sum of the addition, 6 and 2. All right, so now we know how to interpret, now we evaluate. So 5 times 6 plus 2 is 8. And then 5 times 8 is 40. So 40 is our answer. So now we've went through the steps. We've applied it 3 different times to 3 different examples. Now, Kennedy and I are going to work on, can you see it? All right. The first 2 lessons. All right, so Kennedy, take your number 1, and I'll just read out. So, I probably was too clear on these examples. So, example number 1, add 15 and 6, then multiply the sum by 4. So, what are your operation words? Add and sum. Okay, so how are you going to write it out? So we've identified it. Now let's write out the expression. We had a storage glitch on the iPad, so I had to stop. So Kennedy, just a second ago, was doing the second lesson. So we did number 1 and number 2 together. And now she is going to do number 3 and 4 on her own.
Okay.
And we're going to watch.
Got it?
Yep.
Multiply the sum of 9 and 12 by 3. 9 and 12 is... No. This eraser's horrible.
Ta-da! So we went through the directive model of teaching. We went through guided practice together, and then she did independent practice. That concludes our lesson.